We're back with our guest, Mr. Ron Grimes. And Ron, I see this beautiful instrument here. And I'll tell you, we're going to have to hear a little of that.
Well, you'll hear just a little bit of it. I'm not. I do a lot of single performances with the guitar.
Yeah.
The old type cowboy songs, mostly what people love to hear, and some of the old Bob Wills style songs. So, yeah, I'll try to play.
Yeah, when we get down to the end of the show,
something.
toward the end, we're going to pick it up, and you're going to sing one of those cowboy songs.
Okay, I'd be glad to.
I'd like to mention the humanities program that you're involved in.
Yes, sir.
How did that get started, and what is the character that you usually portray?
Well, it got started. I have portrayed back in the 90s. I portrayed along with Dave Barnett. We did a portrayal. The two of us portrayed Jim White, the discoverer of the caverns, down at the library. I mean, actually the museum down. And we did an evening, or in fact we did 2 or 3 if I'm not mistaken, and the two of us sort of collaborated and portrayed Jim White. And then later I was asked to do for the Chautauqua, local Chautauqua thing, by Randy Milligan, who has a tent set up on the library lawn, and he asked if I would do a character. They were doing an outlaw series, I think, and so I did John Wesley Hardin. And I've done him several times. And then the next year, I think it was, he asked if I would do Pat Garrett. And so I started doing Pat Garrett, and Linda Aycock happened to be in the audience, and a good friend of mine, and a former teacher and colleague. And she was on the board of the New Mexico Endowment for the Humanities, and she recommended, she said, Ron, I'd like to see you take this character with the humanities.
Yeah, right.
And so I did. I took this character to Albuquerque for an audition, and had letters of recommendation from Jed Howard and Randy Milligan and Linda. And I was accepted into the New Mexico Endowment for the Humanities program in 1998 or 99, I can't recall now.
So it's been about 10 or 11 years.
It's been quite a while, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've done Garrett for that since then, and I average anywhere from 12 to 24 performances a year around the state, and I can take them out of state, but we're funded through the New Mexico, now called the Humanities Council.
Now, I heard something, though, Ron, I got to interrupt, that last week, well, a few weeks ago, but you never know when this program's going to show, so we'll just say recently.
Recently, close enough.
You were playing the part of Pat Garrett in Lincoln.
Yes, sir.
And some nice lady told me that you arrested 6 people. Now, I've been around this town, I ride with the police, and I'm telling you something right now, Ron. I have seen very few police arrest 6 people in one day.
Well, I did.
About that.
I was at the old Lincoln days.
Right.
Every year, and it's usually the first weekend in August. And I've done the old Lincoln days since 1998 or 99, every year, and I do a program up there. And then, of course, stay up there for the whole weekend and doing the parade and walk up and down the street. People just loved, and period, costume, and the place is literally jam-packed, and get a lot of photo ops. People want to be seen with Garrett, and I take an arrest warrants of some pretty salty-looking characters, pretty shady people, and I accost people on the street and show them the warrant, and you look close enough.
So you arrest them just on suspicion?
And so I'll just arrest them on suspicion or something like that, and then this past year I pulled out my handcuffs. And so we had a good time.
Now you stay in the old hotel up there. What's the name of it?
I stay at the Wortley, the old Wortley Hotel. Right. I've got ongoing commitment to that. The old Wortley, staying at the hotel that Garrett himself owned for about 3 months. He owned it for about 3 months at one time.
Now I understand that while you were up there, they had a dance and a young lady came up and asked you very courteously if you would dance with her. Tell us about that. I found that very fascinating.
Well, they also had, in conjunction with the old Lincoln days, they called it, they had the Fort Stanton live days.
Yes.
Stanton, of course, is just about 9 miles. It's a fairly new state monument, and become a state monument. Of course, the fort's been there since 1855 or something like that. And they were having their celebration up there, and that Saturday evening, they had a military ball. And the New Mexico Territorial Band out of Albuquerque came down to play for it, all in uniform. And they had a military ball, like they'd have back in the old days, the days of the Old West of the Civil War. And the men were decked out in their respective uniforms. The cavalry had the artillery, infantry officers, and enlisted men, and they had these wonderful costumes. And the women all wore period costumes as well.
Right.
And they did the quadrilles and the reels and the schottisches, and it was like stepping back into time.
100 years ago.
It was wonderful, wonderful. And Christina, who's the lady you mentioned a while ago, Christina Hilmer, she goes as interesting character. We don't have time to go into it, but she goes in period costume also,
Right.
and travels with me most of the time. And Mrs. Brown is her persona.
Mrs. Brown, right.
Mrs. Brown, and Christina and I, we danced the last waltz of the evening at that military ball, and it was a most
One of those
transformed back into another time, another period, when men were gentlemen and women were ladies.
And I understand a young lady about 8 years of age, very
Oh yes, back to
gently
the,
came up
yeah. She came up to me. She was about 8, I would think, and beautiful little girl dressed in period costume. But they were doing some kind of a reel or something that I wasn't familiar with, and she said, "Sir, do you have a dancing partner?"
That was sweet. Well, Ron, we want to end the show. If you'll play us a little, one of those country and western or
Now
John
wait a
Wayne
minute, that's country western.
one of those western ballads, and we'll.
Well, I do owe some of the old cowboys a little uncomfortable in this chair, and I don't even know if I'm in tune.
That's okay. Sounds good to me.
Close enough.
That's close enough.
We used to have a saying, close enough for jazz. This is called Rose of Old Pawnee. It's an old cowboy style song, and a little bit of Bob Wills western type thing. My rose of old Pawnee, a flower of the dawn, blooming tenderly, her memory still lingers on. My angel of the night, a moonlit reverie, a song of love so bright shines on my rose of old Pawnee, shines on my rose of old Pawnee.
Thank you, Ron. Or should I call you Pat Garrett?
I don't know. I've got so many characters I don't even know who to answer to anymore, Bob.
Thanks a million, Ron, for being our guest
Thank
today.
you for having me. I appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Goodbye and good luck.
My rose of old Pawnee, a flower blooming tenderly. Her memory still lingers on my